Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Amy Amadeo. I am the Executive Director of AZSA. We have with us today Onnie Diaz of Northern Arizona Roof Services. Welcome, Onnie.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us here.
Sure. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I've been a roofing contractor now for, oh golly, 40 years, starting my career in Flagstaff in the 80s. And it's something that has just become really near and dear to me. And I'm quite the anomaly because I actually enjoy doing what I'm doing. And we really enjoy taking care of customers and taking care of their roofs. And it's in educating them, and it really is an investment. So it's something that we just really enjoy doing.
Great. And you did bring up educating, and I think that's the most important thing about this, is knowing what you don't know. And we're here to kind of go over all that right now. So let's let the show begin. So why roofs
Absolutely.
fail? So explain, why do they fail?
Well, typically they're going to, most roofs are just going to wear out, right? I mean, they're just, and in our climate in Arizona, because we're so dry, that so many roofing systems are designed for, to take in all four seasons, and it's kind of like just an average throughout the U.S. So when we have roofs in Arizona that maybe come in with say it has a 50-year warranty or 30-year or whatever it may be, the common misconception is that they get their new roof on their building or they have it done and they just think that they're done. They don't ever have to touch them, and that's just simply not true. And so the failure comes really from the exposure to the elements, uh, which obviously snow, ice, and really more than anything, again in Arizona, is the lack thereof our weather. If you think about your backyard, if you don't water your grass, it just turns dry and cracks. If you throw that piece of wood or that old piece of plastic in your backyard and it bakes in the sun, it just dries up and it cracks and it falls apart. Well, that's what our roofs do, because of our lack of weather. And even in northern Arizona, do we get weather? Yes, we do, but not like we do in other parts of the country. So, because of the UVs are just so intense in Arizona, they're even more intense in northern Arizona. And then our overall dry climate dries down all the sealants, the extreme heat fluctuations between hot and cold causes the substrates to expand and contract. And you'll have maybe a wood roof with a block wall and metal flashing, and everything expands and contracts differently because it all dissipates heat differently. So the roofs will really just kind of pull themselves apart. And then you just get into regular damage, punctures that happen on the roof from people walking on the roof, maybe dropping a tool. Tree branches are huge, especially in northern Arizona, but really anywhere, because the branches break off of our trees, they blow on the roofs. Other people's debris will fly onto your roof and cause problems. Uh, Tenant improvements, a big thing. People will come up and put new air conditioners or skylights or add vents or things through the roof, and they don't seal them properly. Um, and just continuing to go down that list is on metal roofs. You get a lot of improper welding. Single ply membrane roofs, you can run into bad hot air welding on seams that causes things to fail, which all really adds up to poor workmanship. We've got listed on here as ponding, which means ponding water. So most low sloped roofs at some point are going to hold water, and that is really difficult to get around. And so what happens with that in areas of, say, northern Arizona or places that get a lot of moisture, is it holds that water on the roof, rots the roof through. In some cases where the water sits and all the dirt accumulates in there, then that dirt builds up as the water dries out, and the dirt buildup in those low ponding areas actually cause heat spots on the roof. And so,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, and this is so common, especially in the valley in Phoenix or in Tucson, because it's so dry and it's so hot. And if you ever think about it, if you go out and touch the ground in the backyard or anywhere, the heat that comes off the dirt is significant. So when you find those areas on lower sloped roofs, those areas just sit there and they get so hot it literally just cooks the roof underneath of it. And you'd be amazed how many roofs we see weekly that are burned up with just literally spots in the roof that are just burned through because they get so hot from the buildup of ponding water, and then the dirt, of course, fills into those low spots. So that is a really big deal. And then that really kind of rolls into our next thing with improper drainage. People don't really maintain their roofs, and we're no different. We're a roofing contractor, and I can't tell you when the last time was on our roof. The
They always
mechanic, his
say,
car doesn't
right?
start, right? Yeah. But one of the biggest things that we see regularly today, I was climbing on roofs all day today, 3 different roofs, all the same problem is improper drainage, clogged drains on low slope roof, clogged gutters. And so then the water builds up. It can't drain out of there, and it backs up underneath the roof systems, and then it rots everything out. Then of course, you get just catastrophes, which usually happen in monsoon season or
Right.
snow season.
Microbursts, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can have your roof installed just fine. I mean, we replaced so many roofs this year that blew off, and people want to blame it on their roofers. And when I get up there, I'm like, your roofer actually did a really good job. It just things happen, and especially with all of our different elevations in Arizona. If you're in, well, really any of our climates, but specifically looking at, say, the Phoenix or Tucson, you have all the higher elevations. And as you know, when you drive through town, you can have hot spots and cool spots. And as that goes on, so when I say that, you can get a really bad storm on one side of town where you get nothing on the other. And those can just rip your roof off. And all of that can happen, and especially if you have a roof that's not been maintained, then the chances of catastrophic damage is really quite prevalent when the roofs haven't been taken care of.
Makes sense. Got to maintain it. That brings us to our last point on this: lack of maintenance. So tell me more about that.
So maintenance really starts. I mean, if you think about your vehicle, you change the oil, change your tires, change your windshield wiper blades, you take it in and get your oil changed. You have them go over it every time you take it in. So the thing is about roofs is, especially low slope roofs, which is most common on storage facilities. They're out of sight, out of mind. You can't see them. You don't know they're there. You're more worried about keeping your building looking good on the outside, but not looking at that roof, and not looking at that roof at least once a year, and making sure that your drains are cleared out, that your fasteners have not backed out of the roof if it's a metal roof, that your sealants haven't cracked. And that's probably one of the biggest things is the sealants it doesn't, you can go buy a sealant that says a 25-year sealant, and it isn't, because it just can't hold up to our climate in Arizona.
Right.
So it's so important that we get up and we look at those things. We look at fasteners and sealants and look at skylights, and if it's a metal roof that we're looking, because they expand and contract so much, it literally will just blow the fasteners right out of the roof. And so it's something that you just need to look at on a regular basis and get a roofing contractor up there. And it's cheap maintenance to look at it every year, as opposed to waiting for that catastrophic storm to come in and mess your roof up.
So how often do you recommend basically a review of your roof?
Sure, I would recommend once a year.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great.
And usually, try to do it I usually either recommend in the spring or the fall. I say the spring, before the storms and everything come in. But in some cases, if you're in northern Arizona, your roof may still be covered with snow in the spring. So at that point, you really kind of want to look at it. We usually recommend looking at it before winter comes in, and that way, everything is taken care of before the snow. But really, if you just get somebody up there once a year, it usually typically doesn't cost you very much. It depends on the size of the roof, but I think we charge like $750 to get up on a roof and look at everything and seal pipes if they need to be sealed, or put minimal type stuff in there, and sometimes even less if it's just getting up there and walking around. If we put the roof on for you, one of the good things is for us is that we'll go up and look at it, and we're not going to charge you a thing unless there needs to be some work done. And in most cases, most roofing contractors won't do that either. They won't charge you unless there needs to be some work done, but they really should be looked at once a year.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, and if you don't do it, it's a lot more expensive than $750. So, catch those mistakes and those things happening before they really get bad. All right, we'll get on to the next slide here. Roof damage. What's it look like? How to find it? When to consider repair versus new roof? These are all great questions.
Yeah. So roof damage can come in lots of different forms, and sometimes it's rather difficult to find. But damage usually, again, will come from hail, will come from blowing, falling debris. It can come from people working on the roof, air conditioning contractors walking on a roof, dropping something on the roof, plumbers. Really, just anybody that gets up there on that roof can cause roof damage, and sometimes they don't. More times than not, they don't even realize that they've done it. And how to find it is, if there's a leak, then usually we start by looking inside the building where that leak is at, and then we will go in pretty much every direction from where that leak is coming in and start trying to narrow it down. In some cases, it's very difficult to find, and we actually have to do a water test, and we'll take water hoses on the roof and flood test a roof in order to find those leaks, because sometimes it's not the roof at all. It can be the walls, it can be an air conditioning unit, it can be a cracked skylight, it can be a cracked plumbing pipe, and you'd be surprised on how many times we go and chase roof leaks that it truly is not the roof at all. And that is really more common than not. And then when you get into repair versus re-roof, it really just comes down to dollars and cents. Now, it's, not to bag on roofing contractors. Obviously, everybody want, your first choice would be to replace a roof, right? I mean, if you're a roof contractor, because we all do what we do to make a living. But more times than not, we find that so many roofs do not need to be replaced, and they can be repaired. And that's where it comes into getting at least 3 bids. We usually say 3 bids from 3 qualified contractors. And
that's the key there, qualified contractor.
Absolutely it is, because just because you're a roofing contractor doesn't mean that you've seen everything. There's very few of us that really specialize in and have seen everything. And I say everything tongue in cheek, because I even see stuff even after 40 years, and I've been a residential commercial roofing contractor my entire career, and I like to think that I've seen it all, but I don't. I have not.
That's always amazing you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just is. And so when to consider a repair versus the new roof just really come down to dollars and cents. I mean, when you get up and you look at the roof, and if the repairs are getting to the point where you could get a new roof system as far as the cost could be, or the repairs aren't going to hold, and long term, rather than spending the money on a repair that you're probably going to have to do again and again and again, it pays to re-roof. Now, in some cases, and this is really just kind of came in this year, that insurance companies are dropping people like crazy. They're looking at the ages of the roof. There might not even be, and we got one on our home. We have a concrete tile roof that'll pretty much last forever, but we get a letter from, American Family that tells us that, they're going to exclude our roof from our insurance because of the age of the roof. So that is really important point for any building owner to keep an eye on that. And if they get those letters, to fight those letters, get your roofing contractor to write you a letter that there's nothing wrong with your roof and so on and so forth. But it really does come down to dollars and cents. That comes down to storm damage. Has the roof been maintained? Has it not been maintained? And a lot of times we can restore the roofs, and we do probably 60% of our business is restore. When people are thinking that they have to replace a roof, we're able to go in and restore that roof for, quite a bit less than what the replacement cost would be.
That's got to be a relief to a lot of people.
Yes.
All right, debris and problems. Ooh, wow.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is so the common causes of roof damage, debris buildup. So we have here two perfect examples. The top picture is a rusted metal roof. And so the gutters and the drains in that rusted metal roof were never cleaned. They were never maintained. And so that water just builds up and it sits on top of that metal roof. And then you get low spots also in the metal roof because the dirt and debris has caused the weight on it, which will cause the panels to sag in the middle. And in this photograph, what we're witnessing is the roof is literally rusting out, all because the drains and or the gutters were not clean. Nobody was going up on that roof and maintaining it. The picture below that is a roof that we just recently finished. We got up working on the roof. The roof had so much debris from overhead trees, pine needles and leaves that were literally inches thick on the roof. And before we started the roof, there was so much debris we had to shovel it off. Well, once we started tearing the shingle roof off and got down underneath of it, all that debris had held in the ice and the snow and the dirt and the moisture had backed up underneath all of those pine needles and under all of those leaves, and literally backed up underneath the roofing system itself and completely rotted out the wood deck underneath of it. And so that's something that people absolutely don't think about when they have pine needles and debris sitting on the roof, that the roof just simply doesn't drain. And so that in that lower picture there turned out to be not only the plywood decking, but we had structural truss members underneath that were also rusted. And so it can debris where it seems like a real simple thing can really cause a lot of problems.
Okay. Yeah. So again, maintenance. All right, gutters.
Yeah. So this really is kind of the same thing we were just talking about. So again, the gutters fill up full of debris, they don't drain, and all of the leaves, the dirt, everything backs up underneath the roof panels, and causes the leaks from inside. And you can go on a roof and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the roof, but the gutters, especially on metal, gutter sits below the metal roofing system. So when those gutters don't drain and the water can't get out, there's nowhere for it to go other than backing up underneath the roofing system. And so that debris causes not only the overflow of the gutters, but it does cause it to seep into the roofing system, can rust out your system, depending on if it's metal or what type of roof it is. Can rust out the metal roofs. It can literally rot out conventional type of roofs, and it can rot out your structural as well. So roofing materials, again, not all products are created equal, right? I mean, it's no different than so many things in our life, and picking out the right car, picking out the right paint, everything. You have an exterior paint for the inside of the house, an exterior paint for the outside. So the same thing really goes for roofing materials when you go to do your roof. And again, going back to getting 3 bids, talk to all 3 roofing contractors, see what kind of information, what kind of feedback you get back from your roofers. And then it absolutely helps to ask your roofing contractors for the information on the system that they're promoting, and do a little bit of your own research, because what might work in the climate of Tucson or Phoenix probably isn't going to work really well in the mountains of Flagstaff, and so on and so forth. So there are definitely products that are better for the different climates and the different weather conditions. So it's always good to really do your homework and make sure that what's being used will work in the conditions of your climate on whatever part of the state you're in. Cost and budget is something that's important, is very important to all of us, but sometimes we allow that cost to drive what we put on our roofs. And in the construction business, we kind of refer to it as a race to the bottom, because everybody wants to sell a roof. So costs can really play a big factor. And sometimes you don't get the right products because all we're doing is chasing the best price you can get from whatever roofing contractor will give it to you. And where a lot of products will work, in fact, most of them will work for a short period of time. They won't always work for a long period of time. So depending on what your building is and what it is that you're looking for, that cost and budget is something that's really important, that you don't necessarily want to look at the cheapest thing that you can get. If you are, owning a commercial building, you want to look at you can fix that roof today and it's going to last you for the next 5-10 years or beyond, and not just looking for the cheapest product that somebody can come up and smear on their roof and maybe stop a leak today, but it'll be right back at you maybe next year.
My grandmother used to say it was penny wise, pound foolish. And
and so much of that 100% applies to the low sloped roofs of the storage facilities. I mean, it's just huge because again, nobody wants to spend money on their roofs. Low sloped roofs are out of sight, out of mind. You can't see them, and so you just. I mean, I looked at a roof today. Well, the cheapest thing you could put up there, I just don't want it to leak. Okay. So it's important that you really do your research, talk to your roofing contractors, make sure what you're getting, make sure that the products are going to last that are put on your roof. Again, because they are not all created equal. Aesthetic appeal, if you have a sloped roof, a steep slope roof, of course, and you can see that roof, it's always important that you want it to look good. If it's something that is usually one of the first things that people see when they pull up in front of your building or your home, if you have a steep slope roof, is what that looks like. And that's really important, and a lot of times you can get a really aesthetically appealing roof that's not going to cost you that much more than a cheap one, but not only are you going to get the life of the roof, but you're going to get that aesthetic appeal. So it's always important to just tell your roofing contractor, yeah, we want to be budget wise on this thing, but we also let's look at something that's going to look good, because most people's opinion is it's a roof. I don't care,
Yeah. But what do they say? Curb appeal, that kind of thing. So, having it look nice, especially in the self-storage industry, it is, eye appeal is by appeal.
Absolutely. And if it's a low sloped roof, well, it doesn't apply anyway because you can't see the roof. So, aesthetic appeal really has no significance on a low sloped roof because you just can't see it. But that rolls into, that durability and longevity on a low sloped roof because of that. And depending on what type of roof it is, if it's metal or if it's a rubber roof or a vinyl roof, depending on what type of roof that is, all those products are different types of products that will give you different strength, durability, and longevity. So, that really kind of rolls right back into cost and budget and climate and weather conditions. So, you just want to talk to your roofers about that, and it's get 3 different bids, get maybe 3 different opinions. Sometimes I'm actually very impressed that we'll go up on a roof and find out that all 3 of us thought the same way, and then you go on other roofs and all 3 roofers think can be completely different. So it's just important that when you look at durability and longevity, that you're really doing your homework on those products and making sure that somebody's not just trying to sell you something to get a roof job out of it. The maintenance, we've already talked about that. It is very important just once a year to get somebody to come up there and look at your roof. It doesn't take very long. In some cases, even with us, with the advent of technology, we're flying drones anymore. So, I can send our project manager out and he'll fly a drone over your roof and look at your roof in a matter of minutes, and be able to tell you, what's going on up there for maintenance and give you a full video and pictures of everything that's going on. So a lot of times we don't even need to climb on your roof anymore when it comes to maintenance. We can use the technology to find those things that are wrong with the roof. We have down
I
here.
know quite a few people that have done that and have gotten the drones for, just basically to add to their website. And that's when they find stuff with their roof. And so, yeah, gotta love technology, right?
Yeah, and it's great, especially as, again, where we look at storage facilities, because a lot of the facilities have metal roofs on them, and the metal roofs are not real heavy duty metal, and so they tend to be a lighter gauge metal, and so you don't want a lot of people walking on your roof, because when you get that, that's what creates a lot of the problems of everything that we talked about earlier. So, something that's really helpful for us, because I can tell you just in my 40 years how many times I personally have gone on a metal roof and stepped on it and dented a panel and, had to go fix it for free. And all I was doing was just trying to give them an estimate. So with today's technology, we're able to do that and fly that drone over, and, our project manager finds stuff that we've done competitions on the roof where I've walked a whole facility and he's flew the whole facility, and he's found things that I didn't see because I couldn't get down into certain areas because it just simply wasn't safe. So when it comes to maintenance, that is a really good thing with today's technology of being able to fly those drones and really get some really good photography of what's going on up there.
Right.
Yeah, it's I'm a believer. I wasn't a believer a few months ago, but I'm a believer now.
Yeah, I'm slow to adapt technology too, but once I learn it, it's invaluable. So that's great to hear.
Absolutely.
So, benefits to look for in roofing materials. This is a good question. I get this a lot.
Yeah. So in sustainable systems is becoming more prevalent in the marketplace over and over again, that we can continue to maintenance those systems. We can take care of them where they do not need to be replaced. And it is just such a good thing and long term to be able to restore these roof systems and to leave them in place, and the amount of money that it's going to save a building owner is phenomenal when you look at it long term. And having an energy efficient roof on top of that is even better, because the cooler that roof stays, the better it is in the long term. And it's going to help keep that roof sustainable over a longer period of time. And, dark roofs, we don't recommend them in the valley. We don't recommend them in the hot climates.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But they do have their place, because there are roofing membranes that are made out of rubber, the same rubber that they'll make a tire or an inner tube out of. Um, and they only come in one color, black. And because they're black, it doesn't make them a bad roof. It doesn't make it an energy efficient roof, but they make some really good rubber roofs that only come in darker colors. The good thing is you can put a sustainable coating over top of it and make them white. So now you have a really good rubber roof with a sustainable white coating on top of it. And that's a great combination. Rust inhibitors, as we move forward in today's materials, especially when we're restoring roofs on metal roofs for storage facilities. It's really important, as we seen that picture earlier, that where the metal roofing system was rusted out. Not all roofing systems have rust inhibitors in it. So if you are doing a sustainable, say a roof coating system on top of a metal, it's really important that you do your homework and ask your contractor, does it have rust inhibitors in it? Because what'll happen if it does not is when you put roof coatings on top of a metal roof, they still will absorb moisture. And so that moisture stays trapped in there, and can literally, even though you have a new roof on, it can literally keep that moisture trapped in and rust that system out, especially if there was already rust in place. So it's really important, if you're trying to restore a metal roof, put a coating on it, or coat that roof to get energy efficiency out of it, and it's a metal roof, it is really, really important that you make sure that the products that you use have rust inhibitors in it. And there are not a lot of manufacturers that have them out there. And so it's always a good question to ask. And a lot of roofers don't even know if the products have rust inhibitors in it. And so it just really comes down to the manufacturers that you're using, and to ask those questions and or to do your own homework to make sure that your products have rust inhibitors built into them.
Great advice.
Yeah.
So safety and code Class A fire ratings. That sounds important.
So one of the things that we run into with safety and code and fire rating is that so many roofs, as I was saying earlier, are made up of different products. So when you talk about safety, sometimes you can put a roof on and that actually emits smells as the roof ages. And a lot of those products are made out of PVC, like a PVC pipe, polyvinyl chloride. They have that chemical composition in them, and that's what makes that roof white. But what happens is those roofs, as they age, almost from day one, they start to emit a smell. And so those smells can be absorbed into the building through the fresh air intakes that are predominantly installed on the roof, and can literally cause people to be sick, dizzy, headaches, being fatigued. And so it's important that if regardless of whether you're restoring your roof or installing a new roof, it's important that you do a little bit of that research to make sure what type of product is being on your roof, especially if you have, say, an office building that's filled with people. It's really important. If you just have maybe a storage facility that doesn't really have any fresh air intakes on it, maybe not such a big deal. So it's just something that people should be aware of that we just simply don't think about.
Great advice.
When you get into code, that changes throughout our state and throughout even the different counties. So it's important if you know what maybe any history on your roof. If you don't, it's important for your roofer to make sure that they do their homework on your building, as opposed to what is allowable in that city or in that county. Sometimes you can't put a second layer of roof on. Sometimes you cannot put a certain type of roof on. Sometimes you have to put a certain type or a certain amount of layers on, and we don't think about that when we're putting roofs on to do that homework. And so it's really important that you talk to your roofing contractor or your building contractor if they're facilitating the roof for you, to make sure that whatever's happening to that roof or you're going to do to that roof meets whatever local code that is. And it does change all over the state. And there really is no norm. So that's really important. The other thing that goes along with that is a Class A fire rating, and that can get to a really long-winded conversation, and that changes again with code. So again, not all roofs are created equal. Some are metal, some are wood. Metal roofs are Class A roofing systems. But it's important for a building owner to know what your insurance rating is on your roof. So you could have a metal roof that is a Class A fire rating, but you could hire somebody to come in and put a new coating on your roof to seal your whole roof. And that coating that they don't put on, or that they put on, does not meet Class A. So now all of a sudden something happens, maybe an air conditioner catches on fire and it engulfs your whole building on fire, and you find out your insurance company isn't going to pay for it because the roof that you put on wasn't a Class A fire rating. So if you have a wood deck, obviously wood deck is flammable and it is not a Class A fire rating. You can make it a Class A fire rating by putting different products on. So it really comes down to what you're insured for, especially in the storage business, what type of roof structure you have up there, what your insurance is for, and is that a major player in what has to happen to your roof. So it really is important, and most people don't think about that. It's a question that really never gets asked, is what type
Until it's too late, right?
Yeah, and you could put a Class A roofing product over top of a wood deck, but it doesn't make it
Class A.
a fire rated assembly. And so this conversation, in fact, I had this conversation last Thursday, and before I knew it, we were into it for an hour, and there's so many deciding factors. So it's really important that if you're getting a new roof, that you look at what kind of insurance do you have on your building, what type of structure do you have, and whatever it is type of roof that you're going to put on your building, make sure that it has a Class A fire rating, but also make sure that it would equal a Class A assembly. And that's the word, assembly. That just because it's Class A doesn't make it a Class A assembly, and it can cause you a lot of grief with your insurance company if there was ever an incident.
All right. Potential utility rebates and tax incentives. That's
Yeah,
always a good one.
Yeah, so sometimes, in Phoenix and Tucson, you'll get APS or SRP, or even the cities will allow tax rebates for products that are Energy Star and or recycled. And so we get those questions almost weekly. And sometimes we know the answer, sometimes we don't. And we have to do, a little bit of research. And it usually doesn't amount to a whole lot of money. But nonetheless, it can be money.
All adds up.
Yeah, right. And depending on who's offering it, sometimes there's huge incentives to do it. So it really is a great question to ask. We get it most of the time, and or we're asking the building owner if they're interested in it and pursuing it. And so it's just a really good thing to talk about because it can have some great cost impacts long term. So, this is really all the stuff we just talked about.
Right.
Do your research and gather recommendations from your, we like to really encourage people to get 3 bids. I will sometimes go and look at somebody's roof, and I'm the 7th roof contractor or 10th roofing contractor that's been on the roof because they're just shopping for the best price. And at that point, you're not really looking for good recommendations. You're not really looking for research. You're just trying to get gather that best price. So it is really important, and we really encourage building owners to do their research, get three good qualified roofing contractors that specialize in whatever. If you have a house, if you have a commercial building, make sure that that contractor specializes in both, not necessarily just one or the other. Even though the roofs may be similar, sometimes a residential type of roof can work just fine on a commercial building, sometimes not. So just really doing that research and gathering all the recommendations that you can from your three roofing contractors. And then, you just want to definitely verify that they're a licensed contractor, that they're insured, that they have not only just your liability insurance, but workman's comp, and that they're completely covered to come work on your roof. Because over the years, I've seen so many lawsuits where people have hired a roofing contractor that they didn't have workman's comp. Somebody fell off a roof and got hurt. The roofer didn't have it, so who's getting sued? The building owner. And more times than not, everybody loses when it comes down to it. So just making sure that you have the insurance before you put somebody on your roof. Evaluate their experience, their expertise. There's a lot of companies out there that have been around for a long time. There's a lot of companies that haven't been around for a long time, and that doesn't make them good or bad. It's the expertise of the people that are running that company and what they've done. We've got friends in our business that have been in business forever, but the only thing they've ever done is a tile roof on a house. And they've been in business for 40 years. That doesn't mean that they're the right contractor for your building because they've been in business for 40 years. So it is, a really truly sit down and talk to them, find out what they've done, what type of roofs they've done, find out, what their expertise are and what their recommendations are. Always a smart thing to do. Again, getting those multiple quotes. We always recommend three. It's just, when we get stuff done at our house or on our building, we get three quotes.
That's sound advice. Agreed with anything. Agreed.
Absolutely. But the thing that I like to tell everybody is do business with people that you want to do business with, right? I mean, if we like each other and you really want me to do your roof, but my price is too high and you get your other two bids, but you really want to do business with me, then have that conversation, because the odds are you're going to get a better end result by doing business with the people that you want to do business with, even if you have to negotiate on the price and do something different than you're going to be by just taking that low bid because somebody came in, with that race to the bottom. And it's advice that we give every single week is, do business with the people that you want to do business with, that you feel comfortable with. And that's just really important. Even if you get your three quotes, it's just a good thing. It's no different than hiring a realtor. When you hire a realtor, you typically hire the realtor that you feel comfortable with, that you want to do business with. And that's really what you should do with your roof or any contracting services.
Right, because it's an investment, and both in, the relationship and in the product and the service. So great advice.
Absolutely. Again, ask all your questions, because not all the quotes are the same. Again, back to what we were talking about earlier, you could have three different roofers with three different quotes, and they could all be good quotes. They could all be legitimate, and maybe one roofer specializes in one type of system and another in something different. That doesn't make it a bad roof, but they're not always the same. And so you really have to ask those questions to find out, okay, all three roofers are giving us a roofing warranty that's 30 years. Great. Okay, now we want to ask the question, are they sustainable? Are they Class A? Is it a cool roof? Can I get some credits over one over the other? So it's really good to ask those questions, because even though the systems are different, it doesn't mean that they're a bad application, but on the other hand, they could be. So it's just good to ask those questions. Make sure their payment terms are in writing. It should be right on their proposal, or it should be in their contract, and make sure that you've got that in writing before you sign that contract. It's just really important. You know, it is not uncommon for a lot of roofers to ask for 50% down in when you do a project, and that 50% down, usually the only thing that's covering is the material. And in some cases, some building owners don't like doing that. Well, if your roofer is insistent upon that, write in the check the day the material that is delivered on your building to make sure that you feel better about that. But it is really important that you have those payment terms in writing, and then do they offer financing? Most legitimate roofing companies do have a contact for financing, and not a lot of building owners like to use it. But sometimes when you need to get that roof done, if you haven't been maintaining it, and you got a lot of money going out, and maybe financing is something that you need to look at, even if it's just short term, so that you can get your roof done. And that's a very, very important question, especially when we're dealing with larger facilities that are going to have a large budget, or it's going to be a large cost, but they didn't have the right amount of money in that budget to look at that financing.
Fabulous. So my takeaways were for our members is maintenance. Definitely three quotes to make sure you get the right people for the right job, and the relationship with those three. And then contact your insurance company, make sure that it's covered, and if it's not, get a qualified roofing specialist out there to help you negotiate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of facilities will use a handyman or, a maintenance person to fix their roofs, which there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. Especially if you employ them, which,
Right.
is always more cost efficient if you already employ somebody like that. But if you were going to have to go outside the box and hire somebody, and they need to work on your roof, it's really not going to cost you any more to hire a roofing contractor than it really would to go out and hire a handyman, because in the long run with the roofing contractor, we have to warrant our work by state law. We have to do that. If it's a repair, we have to give you a 1-year warranty. If we do a replacement, we have to give you a 2-year warranty. We have to do that. So it really doesn't cost you much more to hire a roofing contractor. In some cases, it doesn't cost you any more at all, and it might even be cheaper. But we would just really recommend that you try to do that versus using a handyman or just a maintenance person.
Absolutely. And, as a members, we make sure that our vendor members are licensed, bonded, and insured. They're, vetted and come with great recommendations. So, Onnie, Jen, I know you're around. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Greatly appreciate it. Your knowledge is amazing. And please reach out to them if you have any questions, and reach out to us. Our slide is up there also.
Absolutely. And, we are always available, or we'll make ourselves available, even if somebody, a member just has a question. If they're hired, maybe they've already hired a roofer and they're, suspect to maybe what's going on. We're never opposed to answer those questions for members, and, help guide them through.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Reach out to Onnie Diaz or myself if you have any questions. We're here to help. Thank you.